Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal. Unfortunately, I never got my, what do you call it, um, editing program back online yet. So I'm responding to um, a right angle on the Bill Whittle channel where they're going to talk about the Texas abortion law. Um, it's a little long, so I'm not going to play the entire thing, but I'm going to play little bits and pieces, see how this works, and let you have what I think.
That basically said that a woman can't have an abortion in a baby that has a heartbeat, and that's typically around 6 weeks into the gestation period.
Okay, so I chose to respond to this first. The bill doesn't ban abortion after the heartbeat, it bans it after the heartbeat can be detected at around 6 weeks. The heart is the first organ that comes online, essentially, that becomes functional. And when you think about it, it's obvious why that is. The embryo's body needs, oxygen carried to the cells, nutrition carried to the cells, waste and carbon dioxide carried away from the cells. And in order to get that, there has to be a circulating bloodstream. And the blood cells start to form at about 18 days. And by 21 days, the embryo has an active circulatory system. And abortion apologists will try to say, well, that doesn't really count because it's not the same four-chambered heart an adult has, which, that's like making the argument that you don't become human until you're 25 because that's when your brain's fully mature. The fact that the heart hasn't matured yet doesn't mean that it's not beating, that it is not circulating blood. And at first it is just a tube, but it's pumping, it's making the blood circulate. And it's really cool because it forms while it's working. I mean, it's like an engine building itself while the car's driving. While it's doing its thing, while it's pumping blood through the body, it folds up and forms that ultimate four-chambered structure that we're familiar with. So the heart starts beating at around 21 days, which is 3 weeks, but it's another 3 weeks before the beat is strong enough to be picked up on ultrasound.
The story, Rachel, was basically focusing on the suffering of women who now have to travel out of state to surrounding states like Louisiana, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, places like that, in order to get abortions.
Okay, that might be what the piece is focusing on, but you have to understand that for the abortion lobby, there's kind of two things going on. One is that they want the abortions to be happening. And for every day between the woman having the thought, maybe an abortion is the solution, and her actually handing over her money, every day that passes is a day that she might change her mind. And, this was well known prior to widespread legalization of abortion. And I'll provide a link below to a blog post I wrote about that, where it's fairly normal early in pregnancy to panic and to feel like you're incapable of coping. And when you're in a culture that tells you that that initial panic and that initial feeling I can't cope is proof that you're not ready, you would be a horrible mother, you'd abuse your baby, blah, 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 your life would be ruined. When you're told that that is abnormal, that this is not something that's just going to pass, that it's proof that you're going to be incapable of taking care of this baby, you're going to lean toward the abortion that you're being told you need. Hold on a minute. Sorry for the break. My dogs were outside barking at the neighbors. So they know that they have to get that woman on the abortion table as quickly as possible if the abortion's going to happen. And where does the abortion lobby's money come from? It comes from abortions. These abortion clinics are, donating to political action campaigns. They're paying lobbyists. They're making political contributions. And they're not going to have much money to do that if the women aren't showing up for the abortions. So, yeah, for for Texas activists and legislatures, this is a big deal because it's a dry up of their cash flow, but also on a national level, because nationwide fewer abortions are going to happen because the women in Texas are going to have time to get past that initial panic stage that, again, I've said this has been known for decades that this too shall pass. It's doing an abortion because she's in this perfectly natural early pregnancy state of kind of panicking and feeling like she can't cope is like, somebody gets a stonefish sting and they're, oh my God, this hurts so much, cut my leg off, and you cut their leg off. You're supposed to tell them this is transitory, but they don't, because if you tell them it's transitory, they won't climb on the abortion table, and then the money dries up.
I think the irony also here is, they're talking about the tears and the desperation and the struggle. Well, I thought these women were empowered. These empowered victims, if you will.
I think Zoe is missing kind of the point there, which is if the woman is going through all of this trouble, if the woman goes to the abortion clinic, they're going to be like, sucks to be you, doesn't it? Come up with the cash and then maybe we'll do what you think is necessary to make your life better. She goes to the pro-lifers and they're going to be, oh, you've got problems with childcare. You lost your health insurance. Your boyfriend beats you. Whatever the woman's problem is, they actually address it. At the abortion clinic, it's, cash and miscarry, shall we say. I've talked before about how the woman herself is invisible. And I think for a lot of the frontline workers, the tears and the distress that the women are suffering because they've been told that they're pathetic and helpless and that they can't cope, I think they are moved by that. But instead of saying, look, we can provide you with help, real help, let's see if we can't work on getting you out of this abusive relationship. Let's help you get your medical bills covered. Let's help you straighten out your finances. Let's help you get your childcare squared away. Instead of doing that, it's the really quick, let's get you on the table and suck out Junior, and she's still going to be unemployed or in an abusive relationship. And it's funny that they never cover that the abortion clinic sends that woman right back into her same horrible circumstance. That's really not all that helpful, in my humble opinion.
I don't see what, I do see it, I understand, but it's like, do you guys see it? It's almost like, if we can even include California in this, California even right now is putting in their bill where you can basically abandon a kid. A mother can go ahead and abandon her kid to die for up to 30 days, about a month,
Colorado's doing it too, so.
Right.
Okay, and what they're talking about there is, now Maryland did this. They said, and Maryland went so far as to say that even to investigate a perinatal neglect death would give the woman cause to sue you. And the word perinatal means around the time of birth, which is 28 days before and after. So as this Maryland bill was drafted, it said that in Maryland, it would be perfectly legal to just let a baby die of neglect as long as you do it within that first 28 days. Mom puts the baby in a tote bag and chucks it in the dumpster to die. Did she do it within the first 28 days? No problem. Now, the legislators were like, we meant prenatal, not perinatal. Now, I don't know if the legislators were duped or if they knew what was going on, but you can bet your sweet patootie that this law was drafted in consultation with abortion lobbyists who knew that perinatal means 28 days before, 28 days after birth, and that this was to protect abortionists who want to just let the baby die when it comes out alive, which they do. I don't think Kermit Gosnell was at all delusional when he's like, why am I being prosecuted for this? Everybody does it. Now, California, I don't think, has taken the term perinatal out of that law, and now we're hearing that Colorado's like, yeah, up to 28 days, just, leave it out on the ice like the Inuit supposedly used to do. I think the Inuit used to leave it out on the ice. Let your baby die of neglect. Just, fourth trimester abortion, no problem.
Stephen Green, Planned Parenthood has been monitoring the clinic traffic at basically border state abortion clinics, although some of them aren't right on the border. And that list that I had earlier, and they say that abortion clinic traffic from Texas women, women who reside in Texas, to these surrounding states in order to get abortions, that traffic is up 800% according to Planned Parenthood statistics. At one Planned Parenthood clinic, apparently it was up 2,500%. Now, what I noticed, Steve, is they don't include any actual numbers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, they're real good at not providing actual numbers. It doesn't look that good. Abortion is only 3% of what we do. Yeah, and you do, what's it, a third of all abortions in the country? So that's a pretty big chunk of abortions.
And anytime I see a percent, I always wonder, well, percent of what? Usually with percents, and check me if I'm wrong on this, it's either because the numbers are inconsequential, or in this case, I suspect, the numbers are such a tidal wave that even Planned Parenthood understands that people need not know, or better not know, how many women are getting abortions.
That's a good point he's bringing up there.
When being moderately pro-choice was a tenable political position in this country, was actually something that Democrats espoused, or at least pretended to espouse, pretended to mean, I guess. The safe, legal, and rare is what Bill Clinton formulated his position as in the.
Okay, I'm curious about what he's going to say, because I'm going to tell you about the slogan safe, legal, and rare. The only one that they actually stand on is legal. All abortions must be legal. Safe, nice if you can get it, but it's negotiable. Rare, absolutely not. They cannot stand the idea of abortion being rare. And there was a study that the Centers for Disease Control did where they compared abortion rates in Atlanta and in the surrounding rural counties. And they discovered that the abortion rate was much lower in the rural counties. And they didn't say, what are the rural counties doing right that their abortion rate is so low? No, they said that they need to educate the women in those counties as to the availability of safe, legal abortion. So the Centers for Disease Control are like, we need to go into these areas where the abortion rates are low and bring them up so they're matching the abortion rates in the cities. It's interesting.
The 1990s. And this brings us to this explosion in bordering states like Louisiana and Oklahoma. In bordering states like Louisiana and Oklahoma. I looked this up. The Texas law, the heartbeat law, didn't go into effect until September 1 of last year, so it's only been in effect for about 7-8 months now, not very long at all. And prior to that, Texas law capped abortions at 20 weeks. Now that is basically half your gestation. You were talking about 42 weeks, I think, is full term. So we're talking not about oops, something went wrong last night and now I'm going to take a pill and get rid of this clump of cells. We are talking about a viable baby inside a woman that was legal under Texas law up until just this last September. So
legal pretty much all over the country. And in the Gosnell case, abortion rights activists tried to pretend that the reason women were going from neighboring states into Pennsylvania to Gosnell for their abortions was that there were gestational limits in neighboring states. And that's not the case. It's there's some that managed to tweak it down to 22 weeks, but 24 weeks is pretty much the cutoff And that's Roe versus Wade. They divided the pregnancy into trimesters. First trimester, no restrictions. Second trimester, restrictions to protect the mother. Third trimester, you can restrict abortion if you want to, but you have to have exceptions for health. And the health exception was defined in Doe versus Bolton, and it's wide enough to drive a truck through. They said as long as it was for the mother's health, and health was defined so broadly that literally any reason would be adequate. It would ruin our family vacation plans, would be adequate. I don't like how I look in a bathing suit when I'm pregnant. Well, you know, that's her psychological well-being. So, just that.
Well, I have to think that this is where it gets difficult. So, Scott, you were wondering, is an explosion of a big percentage of very small numbers, or is it an explosion in a percentage of a very large number? We don't know. They're not saying. But if we go back to that premise of safe, legal, and rare, then clearly it must be a very small figure, because how many women at 21 or more weeks would say, hey, I'm going to drive up to Oklahoma, or I'm going to head east to Louisiana now to take care of this inconvenience at 21 or more weeks.
Just saying I accidentally cut him off before I wanted to. I'm going to let him proceed.
Would say, hey, I'm going to drive up to Oklahoma, or I'm going to head east to Louisiana now to take care of this inconvenience that I've dilly-dallied for the last several months on making a decision about.
Actually, you'd be surprised if you look at abortion clinics online. One of the categories for it's kind of a clearinghouse for abortion clinics to advertise on, and women traveled all over the place to go to states where it wasn't so much the legality, it was what the abortionist was willing to do, like George Tiller in Kansas. Whatever, you got the money. He had Kristen Newhouse, who just rubber stamped them. Oh yeah, mental health need, at any gestational age. There's a YouTube video, I'll try to find it and link below, where somebody phoned into an abortion clinic, I think in Arizona, you know, just saying she was like 32 weeks and her husband had lost his job and she wanted to schedule an abortion, and they scheduled it. I can't remember the psychiatrist's name off the top of my head, but he analyzed these rubber stamped cases in Kansas at George Tiller's clinic. And basically these were just profoundly demoralized young women who bought into the abortion rights lie that, you know, if you have a baby at anything other than the ideal time, your life is absolutely ruined. He did a really great job of talking about how all of these situations were things that psychiatrists and psychologists help women walk through all the time. But for some reason, if you're scared and you're thinking abortion, go for it, rubber stamp.
Or has it not been rare? Has it been that there have been many women, for whatever reason, many women waiting until more than 20 weeks to do this? Again, we're not talking about that clump of cells. We're talking about a viable, you could save this baby's life if you wanted to, even if it was an accident, a miscarriage or something. We don't know what the number is, Scott.
And he's bringing up an interesting point. When we start to get, if you look at the breakdown that the Centers for Disease Control and the Alan Guttmacher Institute do on how many abortions are done at various gestational ages, they lump, I believe it's 20 weeks onward all together. So that 20 to 24 week is kind of a fuzzy area. If the ultrasound's off, that 20-week abortion might actually be aborting a 22 or 23-week baby, with some chance of survival. At 22 weeks, there's a pretty good chance it might actually be 24, 25 week. And at 24 weeks, that baby has a really good chance at survival. But they don't want you to know how many are done at 24 weeks plus, 25, 26, 30. They don't collect that data. I think I'll put a link below so you can see how they break it down. They're very careful. They want you to think nobody's aborting viable infants. Nobody's having abortions that late in pregnancy. Now, first of all, if nobody's having abortions that late in pregnancy, why do you pitch a hissy fit when somebody wants to ban them? And second of all, if nobody's doing it, why don't you just show the zeros on your little chart that nobody was getting them?
I hope it's a small one.
In other words, if you found one in a dumpster, you would know immediately what it was.
Bingo. God, Scott, I love you, man. I've worked with you for a long time, but I hated you just for a split second for putting it that way. That was harsh.
I hate you
Wow.
as well.